Okay, so let's clean up our styles here, get this fixed. So we're going to do that by going to our layout. And we're going to need to modify the links here, such as the script file as well as the style sheet. Okay, let's update our style first. The way that we're going to do that is by saying we want to use a helper. There's a lot of helpers within the Laravel framework, and how you find them I'll show you in a moment. But for now, I'm just going to add in, this is a Blade file, so we can use Blade syntax. I'm going to add in a way to access this particular asset with the Blade syntax. So we're going to use 2 curly braces, okay? And we're going to surround this here. Okay, so here's our Blade syntax. And then inside, we're going to use a function or a helper function called asset. All right? And then the argument passed through is a string of the folder and the asset itself. Let's save that and see if we get our styles themselves back. Okay, so you see we've gotten our styles back. If you inspect your element, go to the network, and refresh the page, you'll see that the foundation CSS here is actually pulling to the right location, just /css foundation.css. Now, how do we find this helper? Let's go to our Laravel docs. Okay, so there are a lot of information here, but helpers is what we're going to try to get down to. So we're going to go in and search for asset. So here is the helper method or helper function asset, and it will just generate a URL for an asset. So you can see it's very simple. URL is equal to the asset for whatever you put in there. It's going to initially look to the public folder. Now let's dig in just a little bit deeper here so you understand a little more about the documentation of Laravel. Inside of this asset, it is creating this link or a URL to our public folder. To find out more details about it, more than this is giving you, we're going to need to go into the API itself. So go up to the top and click on API. The URL is laravel.com/API/the version. In this case, it's 4.2. There is a lot of information here and you can get overwhelmed pretty quickly. But don't worry, it's going to come very naturally to you very soon. But we can scroll down, try to figure out, okay, where is this asset going to be contained? Or we can use the search up top and just type in asset. Now we're going to look for the helper assets. We're looking for an actual method asset. If you go down a little bit, you'll see here URL generator asset. So let's click on that. So here we have URL to an application asset, which is string asset. The first argument is the path and whether or not it is a secure asset or HTTPS. You're not necessarily going to need the secure all the time, but for now, this will just tell you, hey, here are our parameters. Here's what we need to bring in. And you can see that it's coming from the URL generator class inside of Illuminate Routing URL Generator. Anything you see here, such as Illuminate Routing URL Generator, is going to directly relate to a file inside of the source that's inside of the Laravel core, which is actually in your project. Let's see if we can find Illuminate Routing URL Generator and then the asset method of that class. Switching back over, I'm going to close up the app because that's not where we're going to look. And then we're going to dig into Vendor, go down to find Laravel, then Framework, and then Source. So notice the first folder that we were looking at here, Illuminate, was the first here, Illuminate. So it would serve to be that we'd go down to find Routing. There it is. The next one would be URL Generator. Go down to URL Generator. And now here is the Illuminate URL Generator class. Now we're looking for a method called asset. So we can just search for that. Here we have line 146, public function asset with the path and the secure. So here is the actual source that we are getting from the core of Laravel. This allows you to go what we're considering up the source tree to find out more information. You may not need all of this information right now, but knowing how to find more information is extremely important for your learning process. Now that we know what this is doing, now that we're getting the root URL of the actual site, and then removing that index and then just trimming it and reporting back a URL that's useful to us, we now know we can use asset to just simply push up an asset URL. All right, let's go back to our layout. Inside of app, views, layouts, main.php. Now we still need to deal with our JavaScript. So how do we do this? Can we do it in the same way where we say asset? Let's try it and see what comes up. All right, let's go back to our page, refresh, look at our network, and look for Modernizer and see if we're getting the asset. All right, Modernizer, and yes, so we are getting the correct location, so we can use asset for style sheets or for JavaScripts. Now there is a whole nother way of doing this, which is using the HTML class, and I'll show you that in the bottom. What we're going to do here is for the jQuery one, I'm going to use a just pure blade solution to inserting. So we're going to do the doubles again, and then we're going to use a class HTML, then a static operator, then the method script. All right. And then what we're going to pass through it is the actual file that we want, which is this right here. So removing this completely, save, and let's see if jQuery shows up for us. Now you see jQuery is as well. So here, instead of using the asset and actually writing the script tag, we've employed a complete blade solution. Now let's see where we can find this, so we'll have the documentation to look at. So we'll go directly to the API. We're going to do a search for script, and you'll see HTML Builder script. So here, again, we're inside of Illuminate, HTML, HTML Builder. Now here is what the method does for us. It's a public method that is going to return back to us a string, and its arguments are a string URL and any attributes we'd want to pass through to generate a JavaScript link or a link to a JavaScript file. So it's a very simple method that we just simply use a call to HTML facade, which takes us to the HTML builder, and then script. It's probably a little bit more than you may need, but it's always good to know the base of things. So now you see how that works. Either way of those will work fine. So we can either use the HTML script, or we can actually go in and just use asset and manually do it ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and use the HTML script version again for JavaScript Foundation. Okay, here refreshing, and now we have no 404s, everything is okay, or 304 redirects. So everything is good, back to normal. So just as a quick review, we now have the ability to go to the home route and take us right to all to-do lists. We can also go to /todos and give us the same page, or we can pass through an ID and get the actual list itself and ID 12. Now we're not pulling anything from a database yet. We're just getting our views and routes set up now.